Caruso runs a break. Caldwell Pope goes to the wing here. James! Oh!
Trying to play at the defensive end. Got blown by back.
Oh, yes!
Hook jam!
Harden step back. Puts up the three. Got hit. Shot's good! And one!
Back this time here, Steph.
Oh, Russell Westbrook!
Let's take it from the West Coast to the East Coast. Let's take it to the boroughs.
East side.
Excuse me, I'll take it to Brooklyn, man. Brooklyn represent. Where you at? Where you at? We got the Nets, man. Looking phenomenal. Phenomenal. Best team in the league.
Right.
Best team in the league. Better than the Lakers.
Best team in the league?
Best team in the
They don't have
league.
the best record. They don't have the best record in the
They got the
East.
same record as y'all.
They lost it.
They got
Okay,
the-
but
so the best team in the league is the Magic?
Huh, I mean, how you gonna say?
All
they're
right,
the
then.
best
So,
team
all
in
right.
the league? What does it prove?
All right,
What does
we're
it
going to
prove?
talk about it. We're going to talk about it.
Okay, go
So
ahead.
the Nets is looking phenomenal to me. First game of the season, I had the chance, to fully sit down and watch it. It was a blowout against the Warriors. I mean, granted, the Warriors are playing kind of, shitty themselves this year because they don't have
Not
Klay
making the
Thompson.
playoffs.
They didn't make the playoffs this year. I mean, Kelly
No,
Oubre.
we'll dive in that later, but I'm gonna go ahead and throw it out there.
We'll talk about that later. But the Nets, their first game, they destroyed the Warriors. And, just watching them play just throughout these 4 games that they played so far, Kyrie and KD sat out last night or 2 nights ago when they played against the Grizzlies. And everybody was excited about when KD got dunked by Terry Rozier, even though it was a dunk by, but they still let it beat them. I think they lost to them, actually.
Yeah, they lost it. Now Hornets beat them.
They lost to the Hornets, but they beat the Celtics and beat the Warriors. But and they also lost Mr. Dinwiddie too with a partial ACL tear in his knee. But from what I've been looking at in terms of Dinwiddie's ACL tear, the doc says it's not that significant of a tear. He was talking about his Instagram post how he specifically trained himself because he suffered the same type of injury in college, and how he trained his body to his knee. They say it looked like younger than any person at his age of 27 even looks like. So his surgery, it looked like it's going to be quick and easy from what he says, what the doctor says. So it's possible we might see him back before the end of the year. Maybe, especially considering how medicine has been like improving and the way we've seen these players come back.
Look at KD. Look at him. He literally got the worst injury an athlete can have, and he's come back. And if you hadn't, if you had just told me, oh yeah, KD was never injured, I'd believe you.
I mean, KD's not even 100% yet. Like, he's watching him. Like, we see him play, and he looks great, but he's not 100% yet. And that's what's even scarier. That's what's even scary, that, like, because I think these players didn't really have a full training camp like you normally do in every season. But he's been hooping. He's been out for 18 months, and he's been playing, and he's getting better, and he's still, like, hooping comfortably. And Kyrie's thriving off that, too. And it's just, oh, man. So, with the Nets overall, I feel like I had a point earlier that I was getting to, but I forgot. But in terms of like just maybe talking about Dinwiddie and his tear, how that, because I didn't think they was gonna start Dinwiddie alongside Kyrie. I thought they was gonna have him come off the bench, kind of be a 6-man. But the way they played with him, with Karis LeVert coming off the bench, kind of Karis having his own show, where Kyrie and KD, they just playing off each other. Good ice. They not only just ISO ball, they'll do some ISO plays here and there, but great ball moving all around the perimeter. Great ball moving up and down the court.
They look natural playing together, and I was actually really surprised because I figured Kyrie being very ball dominant, and we saw with KD and what he was able to do when he was with Golden State, that he could play very well off ball. I was just curious what that would look like, and it's actually pretty good so far.
It has, and I wonder like how with losing Spencer Dinwiddie, how they're gonna really affect him in the long run, because like I said, I didn't really expect them to throw him in the backcourt together at the beginning of the season. But they've been playing well together. I don't know if you insert Karis or you keep him off the bench, or you probably insert Taurean Prince at the 4, Jeff Green at the 4, and move KD to the 3 and Joe Harris to the 2. I like having Joe Harris there in that starting lineup, because having that extra shooting right there, spacing the floor. You got Jared, you have DeAndre Jordan. They got starting running the floor too, up and down, rebounding. Jared Allen coming off the bench to do that for him as well. They got a pretty deep roster, pretty deep. And with Steve Nash as a coach, getting him up down the floor, and Mike D'Antoni being one of the assistants as well. Jack Vaughn still being there with the team. He took over for what was his last name? For Kenny Atkinson after he got released from the team. You can see this fast, like, moving offense, which I think is kind of perfect for this type of team and this type of players that they have. And it's kind of scary. I think it's scary. I think they come out these. I think they come out these without a shadow of a doubt. And then what you think of them? especially seeing Kyrie play, because Kyrie, as we saw, been getting a lot of the heat going into the season, not speaking to the media. People were like questioning him and like blah, 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 like how him and KD is going to play. Kyrie's actually been outshining KD if you really look at it. Because
He's been
Kyrie
in his bag. He's been his Louis Duffel.
Louis Duffel, man. He's been turning it up. He's averaging 29.3 points. I know I talked about it earlier, how stats don't really mean nothing to me this much at the beginning of the season. But, just for reference sake, he's averaging 29.3 points. His assist to turnover ratios are looking at 6-2. And, KD's averaging 26.7 points with almost 2 steals a game. And just watching him play, Kyrie's just kind of just outplaying KD, but KD's comfortable and is
right. Well, I wouldn't really particularly say outplaying. I mean, by stats, I guess you could make that point. But to me, I also think, like you said, the stats don't tell the full story. I feel like having a guy like KD creates this magnetism that opens up the floor for a guy like Kyrie. And here's another thing too, and sometimes even I forget about it, is that Kyrie will say so much outlandish stuff that I almost forget that this man is genuinely a wizard with the basketball. Like when he was playing against the Hornets, he hit this one layup where he came up with the right. LaMelo comes over, he switches mid-air to the left so gracefully that it just blows my mind. The body control, the frame of mind to be able to control where you're angling your body, how you're moving your hands around with the ball, and being able to finish from all angles. And he's been not killing them from three. Look, they are the second best duo in the NBA right now. You know who I think is number one. And I think that they have a really good chance of coming out the East. I'm not counting out the Bucks. They look really good. We'll talk about this later about what they did to Miami. I don't think they're going to play that well every game. But I'm not going to sleep on Giannis. I'm not going to sleep on the Bucks. But I definitely think that it's the Nets and the Bucks East. And it's really up to them on who goes in the Eastern Conference Finals whenever they play each other, who will make it to the finals to lose to the Lakers.
With Kyrie, like you brought up a point about like how you looked at how he's been looked at in the media and the things that he said. You kind of forgot his basketball skills and like how much of a wizard and a magician he is.
That and how many games he misses. Like, Jesus Christ, that man can't play more than 50 games a season. He's already missing games. He's already missing games. I don't know if that's just
that was only one game. That's only one game. Him and KD both sat out.
They only played 4. I mean, I get KD. He's coming off an Achilles injury, but I don't know. Kyrie's
come off an injury too. Kyrie's
always coming off. Kyrie's always coming off an injury, though. I just thinking it's something worth mentioning that his injury history is something that concerns me. Because when's the last time you really seen Kyrie play a full season? Like Cleveland?
Boston. No, the first year of Boston.
First year in Boston. No, he got hurt. Remember, because he got hurt at the end of the year. That's why
at the end of the year. That was, but you talking about? You said when he played most of the year.
I'm talking about full season. Like I'm talking regular season playoffs. Like,
how many players have you seen play the full season for real? Come on now.
I'm not saying the whole game, but I'm saying this man consistently has an injury that makes him miss at least 20, 30 games every year. He's missed 20, 30 games every year since.
And it's funny you said that too, because I was looking up his numbers earlier today. A stat pulled up that said, he's one of the only rookies to win Rookie of the Year. He only played 52 games his rookie year. And how many other Rookie of the Years have done that? I know Joel Embiid falls into one of those categories too. No, he didn't win. He lost to.
No. Malcolm Brogdon won that year.
Malcolm Brogdon, you're right. But that's a good thing. That's a good point you brought up, because his injury is one of concern, especially with Dinwiddie out now too for most of the year. What kind of position does that put the team? I would think now, like hopefully, I would try to say that, if he has KD there, maybe, some of that onus and that pressure that's usually put on him where he was with Boston when he's kind of that main guy. And I mean, I guess in Cleveland he had LeBron too, and he was still getting hurt then. But I'm hoping that maybe, you can't really predict with injuries. Like, injuries is not anything you can't just predict.
I mean, it's not something that makes me overly concerned. It's just something that I think could potentially play a part down the line. I mean, at the end of the day, the best ability, I don't care how good you can dribble, how good you can shoot, how great a defense you are. The best ability is availability. And if you ain't on the court, I don't really care how talented you are, because you're not playing. So we'll see what turns into that. But yeah, all that said, Spencer Dinwiddie, losing him for the season is a big loss. But I think between KD, Kevin Durant, and then Karis LeVert, who I think is a very talented player, he showed that in the playoffs. Even though they got swept by the Raptors, he showed me a lot. And he showed me a lot during the regular season too last year. So I think that he's a fine third piece. And they got a ton of role players. So I think the Nets will be fine.